To the Match Singles in America Forum for the 6th year in a row. Match has conducted a comprehensive study that takes an in-depth look at all the things that we care about. Being single in America, dating, sex, and this year especially politics. I am here with Dr. Helen Fisher, biological anthropologist, extraordinaire, legend in this field, and I'm sure others, and the chief scientific advisor to Match.
Absolutely. Yep.
And for those of you who are joining today, you can tweet your questions at, let me get this hashtag right, hashtag Singles in America and tag @Match. Oh my God, this is so exciting.
Yeah.
I interviewed you 20 years ago for a piece I did for 2020 about this very topic, sex, love, and biology. I went through the study, which was incredible. There was so much information. Yeah. Some of it I've never heard. Some of it I was shocked with. Some of it I was like, yeah, I knew that.
Yeah.
But what I think the most important thing for women, especially to know, and I tell all my girlfriends, the most important piece of information you need when you start dating is to know yourself.
Right.
And be honest about who you are. And maybe I'm dating myself, but we used to, and I think I hear young people still say this. Are you a Miranda or a Carrie or a Charlotte or a Samantha?
Right.
And it does turn out that there are different types, biological types of women, and I guess men. And the study sort of sets them out in, I think, an interesting way. They don't use the old Sex and the City characters, but they're using, like, some of these people I don't even know, to be honest. Emma Stone. Yeah. But what do you say about, like, the compatible data?
Yeah. Well, these people are actually very high estrogen. This is math. I mean, first of all, this Singles in America study, we don't poll the Match members. We poll the American public. So we've got it's representative sample based on the U.S. Census, and we got the right number of blacks, whites, Asians, Latino, gay,
and
straight.
And they said it was over 5,000.
And it's the 6th year, so there's now over 30,000. And so actually, and we've got the real pulse on the American single. It's 1/3 of the American population, and what about
age? What about age?
Age 18 to 70 plus.
Okay.
And among the sexiest are the older people.
Well, I read that. We'll get to that later, but that was my favorite part of the study. The baby boomers are having more and better sex than the millennials.
Yes, they are.
Jeez.
Yeah. Well, I think you get more relaxed as you get older, and you get to know yourself better, and you begin to dare ask people for what you want, which is really important.
Which is hard.
And you're no longer of reproductive age, so you don't have that that concept, that concern in your head. It's the young who compromise. Young men are the most likely to compromise, and and the older you get, the more sort of relaxed you get. So
so of the types, I think I'm the compatible dater. I'm sort of looking for communication and humor and respect. It's so super boring. Yeah. But whatever, that's
No, that's very female, which is, both of us. And in fact, I had long ago wanted to know why you're naturally drawn to one person rather than another in order to set up a subsidiary dating site for Match.com called Chemistry.com. So I looked at your chemistry, and as it turns out, from that data, I found that there's 4 basic biological styles of thinking and behaving. And what flipped me out about this year's study is we have this wonderful young statistician who worked with Match and at Match, and he found that there are 4 styles here that fall perfectly to the 4 broad biological styles. So you're a high estrogen. I mean,
I'm Emma Stone. I don't think I know who Emma Stone is.
I don't either,
I think she's probably very lovely.
Well, I'll tell you one thing about her. If she's that type, she's going to be imaginative, intuitive, good people skills like you, good verbal skills like you.
But in my fantasy, like inside in my soul, like I want to be Leonardo DiCaprio, the social data, which in my day
you probably are both.
Samantha.
You probably
are both. I wish I could be that way, but I'm sort of not that way.
I see. Well, we're all a combination of all of them. Because these are brain systems, not cubbyholes. So, for example, I am a combination of the casual dater. I'm the high estrogen type, and I'm also the high dopamine type. They tend to be novelty-seeking, risk-taking, curious, creative, spontaneous, energetic. So you're probably a combination of both.
My boyfriend now is 22 years younger, so I'm a little
There you go.
So that's the social dater. Someone who's willing to take risks.
They want entertainment. They want fun. They want to just hang around with friends. They want to travel. They want to eat exotic foods. Yeah, these are the types that will take risks. And so we're all a combination of all of them.
And the traditional dater is the one that we,
right.
It used to be called the rules. Like they go on
Exactly.
a first date, and the second, and it progresses, and after 3 months, they make some sort of.
Yeah. They're very
Yeah.
cautious.
Uh-huh.
They're traditional, conventional. They follow the rules. They respect
They're
authority.
engaged within 2 years.
They want to know who that person. They all want to know who that person is. That's one of the great things I think we're seeing in this age right now. Is, in fact, I call it slow love, and we found this in other annual studies with Match. In that, we're seeing now this long pre-commitment stage before you tie the knot. 100 years ago, first you married, and then you.
Yes,
these
it's
days.
Down and Abbey time.
Yeah.
I mean, we're.
Exactly. And marriage used to be the beginning of a relationship. Now it's the
Right.
finale. And actually, I'm rather very happy about that because everybody thinks that all this hooking up and friends with benefits and living together is reckless. I think it's caution. I think now singles want to know everything about a person
Right.
before they tie the knot. So with Match, we began to think to ourselves, okay, if so many bad relationships can end before you get married, maybe we're going to see more happy marriages.
See, I'm of the belief that the more you get to know, the more you get to know the other person, the quicker the relationship ends.
Oh dear. Well,
So
then
I
you picked the
think-
wrong
I
person to
think
begin
that-
with,
I think dating while married, like the old like Down Abbey days, I think that kind of works.
It can. What's really nice is you've got choices now, and we really see this in the Singles in America data. There's some people who very few people actually want to go to bed with somebody on the first date. And you know what? They don't. One of the things that we found in there was that, this year was a very interesting year, not only for the politics, but because we did something that I've never seen an academic do, which is study the second date. They're so focused on the first date.
Yes.
And as it turns out, the first date is really
Everyone
just.
can get a first date.
Yeah,
and
we ought to be able to.
Yeah,
just
everyone
make a
can
little effort.
act enough. To,
But the
like,
big deal is to get
get
the
that
second
second
date.
date.
And
Absolutely.
what really astonished us, and so what we did this year is we compared those people who only got to the first date
Right.
with those who had gotten to the second date to see what the difference
Right.
was.
Right. That was the
And,
fascinating part of it.
It's fascinating.
There was some. I have to go over some of the statistics and some of the data that came out of the study about that very thing. First of all, your chances of a second date are reduced by over 100% if you don't have food and drink together.
Yeah.
So does that mean if you just go to coffee, or is that considered a drink? Because everyone now, I
Yeah.
think, is like in this age of Tinder, is like, oh, let's get a coffee.
Yeah.
Does that reduce your chances? Or
Apparently.
It does.
What we found is those that made it to the second date, they went out on a weekend night. They went out to dinner. They shared food. The sharing food is very interesting because you love this evolutionary perspective,
Yeah.
and I wondered why is it that sharing food would make it so much better to go on the second date. But for many, all kinds of animals do not share their food as grown-ups. Giraffes do not share their leaves.
Right.
Chimpanzees share meat. And,
What about the bonobo? Do they share? Is there?
only if somebody catches a piece of meat, tears a little monkey or whatever it is apart, and then it's a sharing cluster. But they don't share with another individual. We form pair bonds. The human animal forms pair bonds. None of our close relatives do, and we share male to female. We share protein. That's the high. And in fact, what we ended up finding
That's
here
interesting.
is that if you have sushi.
Right,
You
sushi
really
boosts
get-
your chance of a second date by nearly 200%.
We thought about this, and I said, what it is? First of all, it's sophisticated. Second of all, it's expensive. Third, it's pretty easy to share. It's harder to chop up a lamb chop.
Right, but you're sharing it, and you're
Yeah.
ordering it together.
Exactly.
I thought that too, and then there's also like things like you get your edamame, then you get your salad. Things are old, so there's not that dead space in between
Yeah.
the appetizer and your main course,
Exactly.
right? And then you could be like super cute with like if you don't know how to work with chopsticks. There's like a lot of interaction.
Exactly. You
That's
flip it off the
I'm
side
trying
and
to
you
think,
can
why
start
is it
laughing.
sushi? Yeah, you can start laughing. You're like, you don't really know what, and then the man can order for you because maybe
Right.
you don't know what you want.
Right.
Nothing,
Right.
nothing.
And
makes
it's
a man
solid
happy.
protein. And
it's protein.
and the fatty fishes like the tuna and the salmon have omega-3 in it, which actually increases circulation and alertness. And
What do you mean
apparently,
increases circulation, like
blood circulation.
down there?
I don't know about that, but I would imagine so.
That would make
It's an
sense.
important place.
That would make sense.
But I don't see people running running out of a sushi bar and jumping into bed. I mean.
No, but it's
But the
reality.
bottom line is they can't get to the second date, and I
Yeah.
think it's primordial. So many other things might be cultural, and but we found it over and over and over again. So even if you're going to meet somebody in a coffee house, share a cookie.
Right.
Share something.
It's about sharing.
It's about sharing, and it's been for millions of years.
And I love the it said an expensive dinner increases your chance of a second date by 50%.
If you're a Republican.
I would
Isn't
think.
that interesting? But
I
if you're
would think,
Democrat, it increases your chances of a second date if you talked about marriage.
I mean, we're going to talk
But
all
you know
about
what?
politics in a minute.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, this is another thing, boozy. Like, what do you get a second date if you're a boozy mess and you've had 4 dirty martinis? And is that attractive? Because I'm telling you, my boyfriend is not attracted to boozy women. He doesn't like that kind of messy. Although on our second date, I did end up drinking too much and put some pineapple drink, and I did throw up, and that was bad. But I have a whole other theory about throwing up on the second date.
That's hard.
I showed my vulnerability by throwing up, and he felt like a man. But that's a whole other.
Well, that's
a whole
an important thing that you just said.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever makes him think like a man, and that he's a man, and makes you feel like a woman.
Yeah, and vulnerable.
But about 29% of singles in the Singles in America study done by Match don't mind if you order water or a coffee or a juice or soda or something.
Good to know.
But if you're going to get to that second date, have a cocktail. Even skip the wine and the beer.
Yeah,
I
unless you're
recommend.
Republican, because Republicans like the beer.
They do like beer, but to get you the second date, apparently Republicans
It's much more sophisticated.
I suppose, but don't have an umbrella in your cocktail if
Yeah.
you're a man. That kills your chances, apparently. So we scratched our heads on that one, and then we thought to ourselves, well, I mean, I guess that's prissy, and it's
No, that's not me.
That's not cool.
I would never go. Honestly, I would never go on a second date.
Neither
with
would most
or-
Americans.
unless we were, in the Caribbean, and then why?
There you go.
And then we're on vacation somewhere, and then I would more likely have a one-night stand than anything else.
Older people do.
Yeah, well, I read that
much
too.
more than the millennials do.
Yeah, the baby
Yeah.
boomers are having better
Yeah.
and more often sex than the
Absolutely.
millennials. Did you
And on
hear that?
vacation.
I know, on
Okay.
vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but another thing, the X factor. Now this is like everybody knows this, or they should know this. Never talk about your ex on a date, right?
Yeah.
And that does diminish your chances of having a second
Absolutely.
date relation by I don't know what the
Huge
study said.
percentage.
Huge
Yeah.
percent.
And don't ask them. Now this was crazy. I mean, definitely don't ask them how many people they've slept with in the past. Who would do
Who would do
that?
that?
That's a crazy. I mean, I'm older. Nobody's ever asked
No,
me how many.
no.
And do they think we tell the truth? I mean, that's absurd.
I mean, I would never. This is my first time. Every time. It's like there isn't that whole be a. What is that? That cliche? Be a Mother Teresa.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
You have to you have to
be a whore in bed
but
and
act like this is the first time.
and a lady in public or something.
Or be a porn star in bed, but act like it's your first time, or something like that. There's
Whatever.
always you have to never ever talk about.
We
any
didn't study
ex.
that. We didn't study it. But we did find that that you don't expect to. 59% of singles do not expect to feel any chemistry on the first date.
Right.
It's on the second date that they feel that
That's
chemistry.
interesting.
Yeah.
Before I was in a relationship, I was the queen of first dates. I would go on a first date, and if I didn't feel that chemistry the first date, that was it. I didn't go on the second date.
Well, these are very sophisticated daters in that they don't expect it on the first date. They expect it on the second or even third. And I think that's very relaxing.
But here's something that I thought was, okay, a third of singles, so 33%, admit to having sex before the first date? What is that, like on the pre-date? How is that?
That's a good question. I actually don't know. What percentage did you say?
A third of singles.
In fact, well, maybe it's one of these friends with benefits.
Or they kind of hook up and then they start dating?
Yeah.
Because that was a big number.
Yeah.
I thought, wow.
By the way, I wanted to know.
I always thought that was the best way to preempt a first date is by having sex with them on the pre-date. Because then you don't really get a first date. It's like, that's technically.
Or they want to marry you, for God's sake. Maybe because it's so good,
And I'll tell you the two things that and women say this all the time. They always say, men not so. Oh, men when they're not quite as honest. Because men are attracted to, large breasts and whatever. But they always say humor. She has to be funny. But women do find that humor in men is very sexy.
Absolutely.
And tell me about that, because biologically that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Right. Well, first of all, it drives up the dopamine system in the brain and gives you pleasure. So when laughing does, and number one, and number two, humor is a great way to get over the bumps in a relationship if you can make something funny, and it just gives you energy. The dopamine going up gives you energy and focus and motivation and optimism. So being funny is good, but it's hard to do it on call. So
but laughing does. I mean, when I think of my relationships and the men that have made me laugh the most have been the best relationships.
Me too. And by the way, they now know that the longer you go into a relationship, the less looks actually count. Because now,
never date someone more prettier than you. That's my rule.
Oh, they've all been better looking than me, and I've always wondered why.
I feel the same way. I feel the same way.
But that becomes less and less important as you get to know somebody, because suddenly the humor is important, their kindness is important, whether they're a good kisser is important, whether they like children or dogs or whatever it is. So,
eventually, like the hot sex is going to diminish, and there's got to be something to take its place. And usually, good conversations is at the start.
Yeah, I like to converse right from the beginning too. But you know what? The hot sex doesn't have to end.
Well, no, but it's not like the first year, right? I mean, I always think there's like the first 8 to 12 months is like you're having sex all the time. Like I know with my relationships, like every day, every other day, all day, like Saturday mornings into the afternoon, that kind of fun sex. And I think that does naturally and normally like diminish over time. It doesn't mean you have bad sex. Like when you're having sex maybe 3 times a week, and it's not like all day on Saturday. You're out of bed by noon.
But we asked, what do you think the best number of having during the course of a week? How many times should you have sex? And both men and women agreed that it was 2 to 3 times. Men agreed too. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so then we're going to talk
So
about.
that made me very happy.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
then let's talk about what is sex.
Yeah.
Because I always have this conversation. It doesn't matter, younger, older, mostly younger. But is oral sex sex? Is it like I think sex is sex. Oral sex is sex. Intercourse, penetration is sex. It's just not oral sex is sex. It's just not intercourse.
Yes, women are more contextual. I mean, it can even be very sex for them to have a very, a very salacious conversation over dinner, and just to rubbing your leg or whatever. So I think
is
women
it like
are more
anything
contextual.
that ends in an orgasm is sex?
We're going to ask next year that very question.
No, I'm telling you,
what do you think sex is?
Because I hear
That's a
it
great
all
thing. We got to write this down. Some
I
tutor remind Helen
that.
Fisher to do this for next year.
Because it's just like I've just had this conversation with a girl
By the
at
way,
my own age too, and I was like, no, oral sex is sex.
Mhm.
It's intimate. It's intimate.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I would have intercourse sex before I would ever have oral sex. That's my generation.
Yeah.
But apparently I'm a little too young to be a boomer, but not old enough. But too old
I'm
to
a
be
boomer.
I feel like I'm a boomer.
Mhm.
I was born in 1963, so that kind of puts me on the cusp. But apparently, according to this study, which I love, we're having better sex and more often than the millennials.
And the older a woman gets, the pickier she gets too.
Which
is amazing. You would think that the young would be the,
I've never
operating
had.
like rabbits
I
with
just
its
think
older
like in
people.
your 20s too, you don't really like. Because I was having some great sex. You don't really, as a woman, start having great sex till much later in life. And
You
I
got to
think
figure it out.
we reach our sexual peak later, which is why, which is why you see older women with younger men because they're reaching their sexual peak. It's a good combination.
When I see that, when I see an older woman with a younger man, I think that guy is smart. That guy is mature enough to handle good conversation and somebody who knows what they're doing and saying, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
But men, we do another annual study of singles in America a couple of years ago, and men are, I think something like 50% of men will go out with a woman who's 10 or more years older. They'll go out with a woman and make a long-term commitment to a woman who's not only 10 years older, but a woman with better education, considerably better education, who makes considerably more money and is considerably more intellectual. I think we need to understand men. In fact, these singles in America
Men are really
studies
simple, though, aren't they? Easy to understand.
I don't know about that. I'm going out with some that are
They're
not
like
simple.
dogs. You chase them and they run away. You run the other direction and they run after you. Is it any more complicated?
Well, I don't know. I think women are pretty much the same too. I mean, in that way, men fall in love faster than we found this in the
It-
singles in America. They fall in love faster.
I'm
They fall in love
surprised.
more often.
And they
when
get
they-
their hearts broken and they can never recover. Women
Mhm.
bounce back.
Right, we have to. We
Yeah.
have to.
Men, you talk to them, they're like,
Yeah.
oh, she broke my heart. Well, you were
Yeah.
in high school.
Right.
Like,
Well, you know, the men are 2.5 times more likely to kill themselves when the relationship is
Oh.
over. Men are romantic.
Yeah, they're
I'm
romantic.
hoping this Singles in America studies, 30,000 people in all, and you know this is the largest in America. This
I know.
study,
This was
and I
incredible.
hope we get to understand that men are just as romantic as women, if not more.
Mhm.
Women are just as sexual as men. I'd like the people to figure that one out.
Right.
That gays are just as interested in
Family
attachment and family.
Mhm. We've seen
And
that
that
now.
older people are just as randy as younger ones, and that other animals love too. That this is a brain system that evolved out of nature, this attraction system. So if I go to my grave, getting people to get those 5 things into their heads would be great.
That's
And what these studies really is breaking the mold. They're beginning to. Every year, it's so exciting for me to get the pulse of the American single person and
Yeah.
put it out there.
I mean, I found it fascinating. I'm going to ask just one, because we want to go and take some of your tweets. But politics.
Yeah.
Okay, kiss, kill, marry. The frontrunners: Bernie, Hillary, Trump.
Yeah.
Kiss Bernie,
The kiss Bernie. Well, if you're
kill
young,
Trump, and marry Hillary. Hands down, no other way.
well, older women want to kiss Mario, and younger
Oh, well.
women want to kiss Bernie. Now get that. I don't know why I told you I would want to kiss
Bernie.
Bernie Sanders, but never mind.
I love Bernie.
Why do
I would
you
like to
wanna
go to
kiss
bed
him?
with Bernie, and to be honest, go to bed with Bernie because he just seems fun and adorable. And then I'd want to wake up with Hillary because Hillary's like no joke. I'd start the day right with Hillary.
Well, it's
Bernie, you get
amazing
the-
how many singles would actually go out, not to have sex with necessarily, but go out with Trump and then ghost him and then disappear.
I love that term. I've been saying that for years. I thought I made it up,
Yeah.
but no, it's a
Oh,
thing.
you made him make.
No, I don't
made it
think I
up,
did.
you
I don't
know.
think I did. But
Somebody has to.
like I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, you gotta ghost him. You gotta ghost him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
You
Trump
know-
would be fun at a dinner and then ghost.
Another thing that we found, which I've never been able to say, well, since this, is that all these new terms that people are coming up with most of them are started by millennial black women. Isn't that
Oh,
cool?
really?
Yeah, because the
Like
black
what?
also-
Like Netflix
Bye,
and chill?
Bay,
Oh, yes.
Netflix and chill. Bye, Felicia.
Bye, Felicia.
What are
Yeah, I
some of the
wrote
other?
some of the other
Yeah.
ones. Ghost, on
Yeah,
fleck.
ghosting.
Oh, but they say don't say anything about DM because that decreases your chances.
What's
of
DM again?
DM? Direct message, like
Oh,
something about like DMing. That seems like too creepery. That seems like too stalkery, and that decreases your chances. But if you do like say Netflix and chill, which I say all the time, and bang and
yeah.
what's by Felicia.
Well,
that
you're
decreases your
hip.
chance-
I mean,
I don't know, but
You are, because the older you get, the less you can, and Republicans are much less likely to even know what they mean.
yeah.
But
Should we go to? Helen, should we answer some of these questions that we're getting on Twitter? You can tweet your question to hashtag Singles in America and tag @match.
I just want to say one thing, that we are coming
Oh my
from
God,
the Ricky Room?
The Ricky Room at the
The
Dream
Ricky Room
Hotel.
At the Dream Hotel, yeah.
It's a very nice hotel. Really. If
It's
you ever want a
fun, yeah.
staycation, if you're in New York, you come to the Dream. Okay. Can a Republican and a Democrat have a healthy relationship if they're both passionate? It's like the Mary Matlin, James
Right.
Carville
Right.
relationship. Can they? I mean, I think.
I
yes.
think you can, but I think you
That's
got to
passion.
either. I have recently been hanging around with people from a very different political persuasion, and I'm really learning a lot. I'm
Yeah.
learning a lot about what the other side actually thinks, and what my side, what annoys them about my side.
Right.
I think it can be actually very valuable and fulfilling, but I do think you got to pick your right moment. You got to keep your mouth shut at certain times, particularly
Yeah.
if they're passionate about it.
But
there's
if
so
you're
many other
equally
parts of
passionate about it.
Yeah.
I don't like someone agreeing with me all the time. I like
Right.
that debate. I like that.
But and there's so much to romance and feelings of attachment and the sex drive that is not linked with your political views. So I think
Right.
you can work around it, but I do think you have to make a little bit of effort sometimes.
Here's a good question. And do you have any advice for women dating post-divorce or I was widowed 15 years ago, or
Sorry.
post-widow.
Yeah.
I mean, I wrote a book called a novel book, The Widow's Guide to Sex and Dating. All of that.
I gotta go get it.
It's a comedy, really, about
Uh-huh.
sex and death, all the funny parts of both.
Mhm.
And widowhood is different than divorce. I always found that when you're getting divorced, your girlfriends are all like fixing you up with, your next door neighbor, their best
Yeah.
friend. But when you're widowed, there's not that.
Yeah.
They don't
My guy died 5 years ago. We were together
Oh.
for 30 years, and
So
it was really.
it's different than
It
divorce.
is different. Well, first of all, there's no arguing. I mean, somebody left because they had to go. I
Right.
mean, it's not like you got.
The upside is you don't have to worry about bumping into
That's for
Rex
sure.
with his new hot young girlfriend. which
Exactly.
must be a real pain.
Oh, and that was particularly if you have children and you've got to work it out with them on a daily level.
This is a good question. We still have time. Are there red flags to online dating that I should know about? I
Yes.
think so many people
Yes.
date online now.
Yeah.
Of course.
Oh, 37% the person that they're going out with met that person online. 32% met their last first date online, and 20% of Americans these days married somebody that they met online. This is the way now.
Yeah.
Particularly
it's
when you
the
get
new
older.
single bar.
you
I mean,
know.
it's like where people are
Yeah, I mean, I'm too
socializing.
old to stand in a singles bar. I hope that somebody's going to walk by and fall in love with Helen Fisher,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well,
I think
you're a sweetie. But I mean, my parents are dead, so I'm not going to introduce me to anybody, friends. I've gone through that all. But
Right.
the bottom line is, this is a very good question. What you should, there's two things that you should know. First of all, when you just meet somebody, you overweight those few things that you know about them. And so you've got to if you like them at all, get past that. Get to know their sense of humor. Get to know their kindness. Get to know what their interests are. Because, so many people will swipe left on Tinder because they say, no, it just doesn't look quite right. But once you get to know them, that begins to disappear.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Just think of reasons to say yes to get to the second date. Number two, it's called cognitive overload. The one problem on all of these dating sites, by the way, they're not dating sites, they're introducing sites.
Right. Yeah.
It's your own brain is the best algorithm you got. So you got to get out there and actually meet the person. But the problem is it's called cognitive overload. You can when you get this feeling that there's 15 more around the corner and 100 more around the corner, you end up meeting nobody. So I say after you've met 9 people,
Nine is the number.
pick one and get to know that person more, because all the data shows that the more you get to know somebody, the more you like them.
Wow, that is very, very good advice. And I think, do we have more time, or do we have we have time for one more question? Okay, well, this is a good question because we talk so much about sharing food and eating on the first date makes this young lady nervous. Do you have suggestions for other things you can do with a match date?
Well, you should certainly, it's a shame that it makes her nervous because it's the most likely to get you the second date, but go to something exciting. Any kind of novelty drives up the dopamine system and can push you over that threshold into falling in love or at least being interested in the person. So go pick things that are novel to you. Don't go to the same old, park. Go to a different part of the park, ride your bicycles, walk the beach.
I just went ice skating with my boyfriend.
Oh, that's cool.
That was fun, and that's a good thing because I'm not. He can skate. I can. It was my first time.
Mm-hmm.
But you naturally have to hold hands.
Absolutely, and that's really important.
And
That's why the Netflix and chill is sort of interesting, because you're sitting right next to somebody that's driving up the oxytocin system and giving you feelings of deep attachment to the person.
No,
So,
we didn't even get into oxytocin, but
Yeah.
beware of oxytocin.
yeah, casual sex isn't casual unless you. But one thing is we found on our Singles in America study that when we every year I ask the same question: have you ever had a one-night stand that turned into a long-term committed relationship? And every year between 25 and 35% of Americans say yes.
That's a big
And it's
number.
because, having sex with somebody, you learn a lot about them.
Yeah.
That's number one.
Yeah.
But all of that touching and holding drives
Yeah,
up the
and the
oxytocin
oxytocin.
system. And
But men don't have it.
Oh, yes, they do.
A little
But
bit.
it
In
doesn't
smaller
matter how
doses.
much you've got. It's how many the receptors receive what you've got.
Got
So you can have a whole lot less and have an impact on you. So it's not
Yeah.
the level, but the activity of it.
Oh my God, I could talk to you for
Yeah.
hours and hours and hours.
Thank you.
I think we've run out of time for our chat, but thank you so much. And everyone go to #Singles in America. The study is incredible. You'll learn everything you need to know about getting a second date.
Absolutely, that's important. That second date. Thank you.
Oh my
Thank
God,
you for joining us.
That was so fun. That was so fun.